bench by the lake. Every evening, Elena walked by the lake after work. She liked the silence, the way the water mirrored the colors of the sky. One spring evening, she noticed a man sitting on a wooden bench, sketching quietly. His hair was messy, his eyes focused, and he didn't seem to notice her passing. For weeks, Elena saw him there, always with his notebook. Curiosity won over her shyness one day. She stopped and asked softly, "What are you drawing?" He looked up, startled, then smiled. "The lake. But it never looks as beautiful on paper as it does in front of me." From then on, their meetings became routine. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they simply shared the silence. His name was Daniel, an architect who came to the lake to escape deadlines. Elena told him about her love for books and her dream of writing one someday. One evening, rain began to fall suddenly. They ran under the trees, laughing like children. Daniel offered his jacket, but Elena shook her head, hair dripping, eyes sparkling. He stared at her, as if seeing something he had been searching for all his life. "I think I just found the most beautiful scene to draw," he whispered. Summer turned to autumn. The leaves fell, and so did their defenses. Daniel finally took her hand, fingers trembling. "I don't want this to end when the seasons change," he admitted. Elena smiled, squeezing his hand. "Then let's not let it end." Years later, the bench by the lake became their favorite place. On quiet evenings, people passing by would see an old man sketching and a woman reading beside him. Still together, still in love, still holding hands, just as they had on that first rainy night. Cafe by the river. Amelia had always loved the quiet cafe by the river. It wasn't grand, just a small wooden place with warm lights and the scent of roasted coffee beans drifting through the air. Every Friday evening, after work, she sat by the same corner window with her sketchbook, drawing the reflections of the city lights on the water. One evening, as the rain tapped gently against the glass, someone asked, "Is this seat taken?" She looked up and met a pair of kind eyes. It was Daniel, carrying a book and an uncertain smile. "No," Amelia replied softly, moving her sketchbook aside. That night, they talked. At first, about simple things, books, the weather, their favorite desserts. But slowly, the conversation deepened, their dreams, their fears, the quiet loneliness they sometimes felt. Amelia realized she hadn't laughed that freely in months. After that, Daniel returned to the cafe every Friday. Sometimes, he brought her flowers. Sometimes, she brought him a slice of cheesecake. Their moments together became a gentle rhythm, like the steady flow of the river outside. One late autumn evening, as golden leaves floated past the windows, Daniel placed a small folded paper on Amelia's sketchbook. She opened it and found a simple drawing, two figures sitting side by the river. Beneath it were the words, "I don't just want to share Fridays with you. I want all my days to be ours." Amelia's eyes blurred with tears, but she smiled. "Then don't wait for Fridays," she whispered. From that night on, the cafe wasn't just her quiet place anymore, it was their place, a beginning written in coffee cups, laughter, and the soft rain by the river. The bridge at dawn. Lena had always loved the old stone bridge at the edge of town. Every morning, before the world fully woke, she walked there with her notebook, scribbling thoughts no one else would ever read. The bridge was her quiet refuge, a place where time seemed to pause. One misty morning, she noticed someone already standing there. A young man, tall and a little awkward, leaned against the railing with a sketchpad in hand. He looked up as she approached, surprised but smiling politely. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to steal your spot." Lena shook her head. "It's not mine. Just familiar." They stood in silence for a moment, the river below whispering in its endless flow. Curiosity got the better of her. "What are you drawing?" He hesitated before turning the pad around. A delicate pencil sketch of the bridge, soft lines capturing the mist, the light, even the way the water curled around the stones. She felt a strange flutter in her chest. "It's beautiful," she whispered. He smiled, a little shyly. "Thank you. I'm Daniel." From that morning on, their paths intertwined. Lena with her words, Daniel with his sketches. They met at the bridge almost every day, each sharing pieces of themselves in quiet exchanges, dreams, fears, fragments of their hearts. He would draw her when she wasn't looking, she would write about him when he turned away. Seasons changed. The leaves turned gold, then bare, then green again. Still, they came to the bridge, as though it anchored them to something greater than chance. One dawn, after a year of shared silences and laughter, Daniel handed her a folded paper. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It was a sketch of her, not just her face, but the way her hair caught the morning light, the curve of her smile when she thought no one noticed. Underneath, he had written only 4 words, "You are my home." Her throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She closed the notebook she had been holding and pressed it into his hands. On the first page was a line she had never dared to say aloud, "I have already fallen for you." The mist lifted slowly from the river as they stood together, no longer strangers, no longer uncertain. The old stone bridge had seen countless dawns, but for Lena and Daniel, this one felt like the very first. The song Beneath the Stars. Evelyn loved the quiet evenings in her small town. Every Friday night, she walked to the old wooden pier, carrying a sketchbook and her favorite pen. It was her place of peace, where the waves whispered secrets only she could hear. One evening, as the sunset spilled gold across the horizon, she heard a soft tune. Someone was playing a guitar, not too far away, but hidden in the fading light. Curious, she followed the music and found Daniel, a traveler who had been staying at the town's inn. He looked up, surprised. "Sorry, did I disturb you?" "Not at all," Evelyn smiled. "It's beautiful." From that night on, they met at the pier. She would sketch while he played, sometimes stopping to share stories. Daniel told her about the cities he had seen, the endless roads, and the loneliness that followed him everywhere. Evelyn told him about the town, her dreams of painting, and her fear that she would never leave. Weeks passed, and their bond grew. Every song he played seemed to belong to her, every line she drew seemed to capture him. Yet, there was always a shadow between them. Daniel was a wanderer, and wanderers never stayed. One night, under a sky scattered with stars, he stopped playing and whispered, "I don't want to leave. But I'm afraid if I stay, I'll lose who I am." Evelyn's heart ached. She closed her sketchbook and said softly, "And if you leave, I'll lose who I've become with you." The waves crashed against the pier, as if carrying their silence. Daniel reached out, taking her hand. Maybe home isn't a place. Maybe it's a person." Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled. For the first time, Daniel wasn't just a traveler, he was someone who had finally arrived. And so, beneath the stars, with music and sketches binding them, they chose to write their story, not in fleeting notes or fading lines, but in the endless rhythm of love that promised to last, no matter where the waves carried them. The train of memories. The rain had just begun to fall when Emma boarded the evening train. She found a seat by the window, watching drops race down the glass. The carriage was half empty, quiet except for the rhythmic clatter of the wheels. Just as the doors were about to close, a man rushed in, slightly out of breath. He carried a worn leather satchel and scanned the carriage before choosing the seat across from her. When their eyes met, Emma froze. It was Daniel. They had not seen each other in nearly 5 years. Once, they had shared everything, dreams of travel, late-night talks, promises whispered under city lights. But life had pulled them apart, too young to fight the currents. "Emma," he said softly, as if her name might vanish if spoken too loudly. She forced a smile. "Daniel." "It's been a while." Silence filled the space between them, heavy yet fragile. The train rolled on, carrying them through fields blurred by the rain. "How have you been?" he asked. Emma hesitated. She could tell him about her work, the book she had written, the quiet apartment she called home. But instead she said, "I've been okay." "And you?" Daniel's lips curved into a small smile. "Better now." The honesty in his tone made her chest tighten. She looked away, afraid her heart might betray her. Memories pressed in, his laughter echoing in summer parks, the warmth of his hand holding hers, the night they had promised to meet again someday. She had buried those moments deep, but here he was, alive in front of her, stirring everything back to life. The train slowed as it reached the next station. Emma stopped. She felt the weight of the decision pressing against her ribs. If she stood, it would end again, quietly, like before. If she stayed, she would step into uncertainty, into hope. The doors hissed open. She rose halfway, her hand gripping the pole. Daniel's gaze met hers, steady, waiting. And in that moment, Emma chose. She sat back down. The doors closed, and the train moved forward into the night, carrying them, perhaps, toward the future they had once dreamed of.